You just saw he has arrived in Ramallah in the West Bank. Our John King is helping cover this trip. He is in Jerusalem right now. Good morning, John.
Good morning, John. This is a very important visit by the president. You heard when he was in Israel yesterday in Jerusalem, Prime Minister Netanyahu saying, sure, I'll go back to the bargaining table. He urged the Palestinians to come back with no preconditions. We know one of the preconditions of the Palestinians has been that Mr. Netanyahu stop settlement construction in the West Bank. So it'll be a fascinating conversation and just an interesting moment. There are those in Israel who believe Prime Minister Netanyahu has to say that, but that he doesn't see an opportunity for peace. And the big question on this morning is President Abbas has said he wants to come back to the bargaining table, but can he come back to the bargaining table? Can he deliver the Palestinians those rockets fired just this morning from the Palestinian territory of Gaza, controlled by Hamas? Of course, a reminder that Mr. Abbas speaks for the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. He does not necessarily speak for the Palestinians in Gaza. So President Obama trying to navigate a very difficult challenge. He would like to get the peace process resumed. The question is, can you get people with the political will and the political ability back to the table? So a big challenge for the president this morning.
Short of a full resumption of the peace process, which seems like a lofty goal, perhaps unachievable goal, what do you think the White House wants to get out of these meetings today, John?
John, you make a very important point because, again, there are questions about whether Mr. Netanyahu is willing to do what it takes for peace. There are questions about whether Mr. Abbas can do what it takes in terms of delivering the Palestinians. So if you're President Obama, you don't want to overpromise. You don't want to raise expectations. You don't want to put the parties back at the table if those negotiations would then quickly collapse, because then where would that leave you? The president's top priority is, frankly, this. Don't let things get worse. I've been in Gaza. I've been in Ramallah in recent days. I've also been in some of the Palestinian communities and the Israeli settlements in the West Bank. And by all accounts, the one thing everyone agrees on is that tensions are rising again. There was a bit of a calm after the November skirmishes between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. There was a bit of a calm, but tensions are rising now. There have been some rock attacks in the roads around those Israeli settlements, and some people talking about the possibility of another intifada. And so the president's top priority is try to keep what at the moment is a relative calm, emphasis on relative, but a relative calm in this neighborhood, and then perhaps start to lay the bricks of a foundation for resuming peace talks maybe several months down the road.
And of course, John, the neighborhood has seen its share of turmoil even in the last few days with this debate over whether chemical weapons are being used in Syria. Right. We know the president has already discussed that with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. It could even come up with the Palestinian leader today.
Well, listen, I'm sitting in Jerusalem, 135 miles from Damascus. So when any of people, and Ramallah is 8 miles from here in Jerusalem. So when people talk about the possibility of chemical weapons being used in Syria, it's not just about the regime versus the opposition. It's not just about the West versus Assad. In this neighborhood, it's about a threat to everybody in the sense that if chemical weapons are loose, whether it is the regime using them, whether opposition or jihadist groups have grabbed them, one of the big concerns, and you heard the president and the prime minister talk about this yesterday, does Syria's chemical arsenal and other weapons get into the hands not just of the opposition, but perhaps to Hezbollah, to Hamas, to other jihadist groups in this neighborhood? So the word security takes on many different shapes and many different wrinkles. When you're meeting with the Palestinian president, it's normally about negotiations and security cooperation with Israel. But because of everything going on in this neighborhood at the moment, John, it's a lot more complicated. And the situation in Syria, including worries about the use of chemical weapons, you bet that will be a factor as well.
We're looking at live pictures right now of President Obama and Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas. They are greeting people at the airport in Ramallah. A short time ago, we saw the president actually shaking hands and greeting, reviewing the Palestinian troops.
The similarities from yesterday, this is a red carpet reception. There is some pomp and circumstance also, but there's a lot of protest that is going to be greeting him as well as he lands there and as he goes through the region. Our
chief White House correspondent, Jessica Yellen, is in Ramallah covering this trip. And Jessica, you've been talking to the White House for days now about this. What is it that the White House wants to achieve with President Abbas today?
Hi, John. Hi, Zoraida. They're hopeful that the president can begin to lay some kind of groundwork to help jumpstart or restart the stalled move towards some kind of negotiations. They're not in any way in the mindset that this is actually going to lead to some peace deal that is any sort of peace accords right now. They know that this isn't the beginning, but they do think that Secretary Kerry is coming back here at the end of the week to try to lay the groundwork with Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel to start some sort of talks And so President Obama is here to, as he said, listen. He said in the press conference yesterday that his main role in this visit is to just listen to the Palestinians. It's a lesson he learned from his mom, he said, because the Palestinians often feel that they are not heard. And so he really wants to see what kind of